Sometime in the 5th century BCE, a calendar was created that would withstand the test of time. It would be the basis of some calendars that are still in use today, and some would even say predict the end of the world as we know it. Others would say that it was warning us about our own destructive behaviors. In the year 2008, the most powerful particle accelerator the world has ever seen was created. It was created in order to dive more into the science of creation, to give us more understanding of particles and the creation of life. But what if I told you it may have done more harm than good? What if I told you this particle accelerator may have made our world jump to a different timeline? Or that they have created black holes, antimatter, and something called the God particle? Today's points of discussion are the Mayan civilization and CERN.
Welcome to the Skeptaholics Podcast, your source for all things conspiracy, true crime, unexplained, and unsolved. All we ask is that you keep an open mind and always question everything.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Skeptaholics Podcast. Today we have another great episode for you covering the Mayan Empire and CERN. My name is Jamie, and I'm 1/3 of this podcast. I'm here as always with the second third of the podcast, Paul.
Hey guys.
What's up, buddy? And rounding us out and keeping us grounded is our resident logical third of the podcast, producer Bill.
What's up, buddy? That every time. How's it going, everybody?
That's just for you. I got that right on my phone here, so I make sure I say the same thing every time.
Money.
All right, boys.
Well,
I'm excited for this one.
Interesting topics today, huh?
Yes, really good topics. Pants is going to cover the Mayans. We're going to kind of run down the history of their culture. We're going to go through how their calendar became kind of the staple for the rest of the world to go off of, what their calendar ending in 2012 was believed to be signified as far as the end of the world goes. And then I'm going to make a tie into that with CERN and the Large Hadron Super Collider. For those of you who don't know anything about that, there was some breakthrough research that happened in the year 2012. And there are some really, really deep holes that I went down as far as conspiracies go surrounding that research and the breakthroughs that happened. So we're going to kind of knock out both of those, link the two of them together, and through the groundwork that we laid this week, going into next week's episode, you'll see how it kind of plays into the Mandela effect. But before we get started with that, I want to bring this up to you guys, because I saw this week, and with everything going on in the world right now, I thought this was some shit. So I'm going to pull a picture over onto the page right now of a new sculpture that was put up at Denver International Airport recently. And if you take a look at the sculpture, it looks very, very strangely like what the model of coronavirus looks like.
COVID.
Yep.
Hellraiser-itch.
And
Ooh.
so there is new conspiracy coming out about this sculpture that I kind of dove deep into this week as well. I'm going to pull another picture over, and this is what the conspiracy is. So if you look at the rainbow, in this conspiracy, the color pink doesn't actually exist. You cannot get pink because violet is here and red is here, and pink is a combination of those two colors. You cannot get pink in a two-dimensional plane, only in a 3D plane. Now I'm going to go back to the camera so you guys can see talk about this. Got red here, pink here on that end of that 2D plane. Only in a 3D plane where you can bend that back over on itself and manipulate that color gram can you get the color pink. Now, diving deep into this, now that you've seen the sculpture, I have come up with some kind of cool research. This all happened while I was researching CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. So there is
Yikes.
something called the
Drug you down a second rabbit hole, huh?
Yes, yes. There is something called the line of purples, and I'm gonna drag the tweet over. On this line of purple spectrum, if we look at it, violet is right here where my mouse is on the leftmost line of purples, and red is here, and this is that 2D plane. All of these colors between the absolute point of violet and the absolute point of red are just a hue of those two mixing and bending throughout that plane. Alright? So what is said about this is purple represents illusion and deception and manipulation of light or truth. Because these colors themselves are illusions, they cannot actually be made. They represent illusion. So when you see purple in an abundance, or even a flash within a highly charged news media article, it is an indication that what you are seeing is not reality, but a manipulation of info designed to appear truthful. And I got another picture depicting various media with a lot of Bill Gates behind it. I mean, almost every image here is Bill Gates, and it all has to do with his vaccine company. All of
Bill
these
Gates
pictures.
might be the most terrifying human being on the
He
planet.
is definitely a bigger piece of shit than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted
him
to...
and his wife, if we're being honest.
Yes.
Melinda's just as bad.
Yes. So I for our viewers who don't know anything about the Gates Foundation, they actually, with permission of the World Health Organization, had introduced a sterility drug into vaccines that they used in South Africa with the promise that they could control the population that way. They are also in court currently, I believe, in India through their polio vaccine. When their vaccine started being used in India, it was creating 300 times more polio cases than previous vaccines. So behind the Gates Foundation, there's a whole nother conspiracy in itself. We won't get too much more into it right now. You guys can go and look it up yourselves if you want to. You can wait until we do a podcast on it if we decide to in the very near future with everything going on. But
Well, at this point, I think we should.
yes.
We should definitely do it before we get too big, though, because we're definitely getting killed off.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be pissed if we end up blowing up and making some money and stuff, and then all of a sudden Bill Gates' goons come and fucking...
Yes. Yes. But yeah, so I mean, I saw that, and the fact that it looked like COVID and that it was this magenta or pink, which that color doesn't exist in nature without manipulation of the light spectrum, I thought that was kind of cool to open us up and talk about quick.
Definitely considering anyone who doesn't have any previous knowledge on the Denver International Airport itself. So it's
Yes.
more interesting that it's there.
Yes.
Because of all the other conspiracy behind that airport.
Yeah.
I mean,
That-
for it to
that
pop
will
up there,
definitely
I
be an
mean,
episode.
come on.
Yes, and we are definitely doing an episode on that, but that's exactly what a lot of people on this tweet thread were saying is, Jesus Christ, they just, at this point in time, they've completely stopped trying to hide anything, and they're just shoving it in our faces now.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys, kind of kick us off that way a little bit, a little different direction. It was something here now and in the moment. I thought it was kind of cool. So,
Fine.
About the only place that would have been more odd for that sculpture to show up would be Elberton, Georgia.
yes.
At the Guidestones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
kinda-
And that's another podcast we're going to have to talk about.
Foreshadowing.
It's on the list.
So anyways, Pants, what do you got for us, bud? Are you kicking us off?
Yeah, I'll go. I got a little bit of history here on Mayan civilization. Not too much, not enough to make everybody leave, but little bit of backstory. Sometime around 2600 BCE, and I actually found out what BCE means today. I'm using it because that's how my research was. It's to not screw it up, but it's basically the politically correct way of saying BC. So trust me, anybody that knows me, I'm not doing it to be politically correct. I'm just an idiot, and so don't want to screw them up.
There we go.
So you used to have BC and AD, and they were whatever Italian for whatever the hell they meant. but now it's
Before
the
Christ, after
correct
death.
way. Oh, it's actually, wasn't it like Anno Domini or something, which means
Yeah.
after death?
Yeah,
Anyways,
They-
forget
Whatever
it.
it is.
they were originally
So now
Latin,
it's
but
yeah. So now it's BCE, which is before Common Era, and then instead of AD, it's CE, which is Common Era. It's the same years before and after Christ, but they just changed it so that the snowflakes aren't offended.
There you go.
So sometime around 2600 BCE, the Mayan people began to settle into Mexican's Yucatan Peninsula. As the centuries passed by, their culture and religion flourished, but a lot of what truly came from them, we don't really know for sure because it was intermixed in with the Aztecs and a lot of other cultures. And a lot of Mayan civilization is just that, gone, basically.
yeah.
But here's what we do know. The Mayan people were known for their highly sophisticated language. I forgot the exact number of hieroglyphs that they have. I think it was like 600 or 800 different hieroglyphs that they used. So for that area and for that time, it was like extremely advanced. But they were also very successful in the areas of art, math, and science as well. And although they settled the area almost 3,000 years earlier, they really came into their own between the years of 250 CE and 900 CE. This is when most of the major construction in the cities were developed. Most of the stuff that you hear about, like Chichen Itza and things like that, that you probably have heard in passing. However, the Mayan Empire hit a fast decline in the 8th and 9th centuries, and not much is really known as to exactly why, but people speculate that it was a combination of drought, raiding, warfare, migration, and overpopulation. I actually found some cool stuff about the populations of the Mayan cities. They're actually a lot bigger than you'd think. Some of their cities had like 100,000 people living in them. They speculate, which, I mean, to me, that's a lot of people, especially for 2,000 years ago.
Well, yeah.
Um,
If you see most of their stuff, I don't mean to interrupt you, but a lot of their stuff is being
Oh, you're good.
uncovered these days. Entire cityscapes in the forests are being
Yeah.
that just got
Yeah.
overgrown and eaten alive by Mother Nature are actually being unearthed, and there's massive. I was thoroughly impressed with how many of them there actually were, based on
Yeah.
what they were finding underneath the forest.
Yeah, it's and like you said, they're still finding stuff today. I think I saw an article earlier this year, like June or something like that. I think they found another like
All right, hold on a minute. We got an issue here. A couple of different mods are in here. One of you guys try to find a way to ban Lewis Dawson. He doesn't want to follow the rules, so no politics.
So, anyways, sometime in June, I believe they found, I forgot what they call it, but it was basically like an earthen temple that they had made, and they said it's larger than most of the Mayan cities that they've found so far. Which, and they're still finding today. It was sitting in like the middle of a field in some trees, and nobody ever put two and two together because it was so big that it just kind of seemed like a hill. So
Yeah.
they were a lot bigger. I think I saw it was like 22 million people at its height. They believe was the population of the Mayan Empire. But here's where it gets kind of good. And I won't dive too much into it, but a lot of Mayan conspiracy is based around the idea of ancient aliens. There have been jade stones found in ruins. They were engraved with what looks like to be humanoid beings with large heads and eyes and 3 fingers on each hand. So kind of your typical Martian that you see in the movies, I guess.
Yeah.
There is pyramids. So the big thing, and we had touched on this in episodes prior to this, is kind of pyramids and how they go from civilization to civilization without really having any contacts. We're not really sure how they get there. So there's, forgive me for some of my pronunciations. These are all in Mexico. So I did my best to phonetically, but I don't speak Spanish. So there's pyramids. There's pyramids at Tikal that adds to the intrigue of the Mayans being in contact with extraterrestrials, being that the city is 25 miles from any water source. And from what I mean by that is scientists haven't even found like that there was even a water source at one point. There's no signs that there's underground water or something dried up. There's no signs of anything. And that doesn't sound that odd to people, I guess, maybe. But you're talking 2,000 years ago. almost all large civilizations were built on the river, or on the ocean, or on the lake. And the thing about this, the pyramid at Tikal, is it's believed that it was home to 100,000 citizens at one time. So it's not like it was just 25 people and they would take a trip every month and go get buckets of water. I mean, you'd have to have, where do they get their water from? You have to have water to live. But the other set of pyramids here that are really interesting to me is the pyramids at Teotihuacan. It includes the well-known Temple of the Sun, Temple of the Moon, and the Temple of Quetzalcoatl, which is like the serpent flying alien god thing, whatever. I don't know. It's crazy. It's all.
I love your enthusiasm about Alien. It warms the cockles of my heart.
Drives me nuts.
Wait. So really quick before you continue, they found no evidence of wells, no natural wells.
Nothing. No, like dried up river beds or lake beds.
No irrigation systems.
There's no water there now. Like, even if you drill down now, there's not to where it would be accessible. I mean, I'm sure if you drilled 300 or 400 feet down, you probably could. But I mean, judging by the no evidence of there being a well there, I mean, we can probably mostly safely say they didn't have the ability to go down that far.
Yeah.
No lakes, no.
It's not like around here where you dig a foot into the ground and you hit the water table.
Right. There's no evidence of any kind of water source at all. So I mean, like I said, for 100,000 people, it's not like you can just, like I say, make a trip once a week and get some water. Like you have to constantly be going. You'd have to constantly have water. And why would they build it there instead of, because if they knew where the water was to go get it, say they were trucking it back in or carrying it back in, why wouldn't they just build by the water?
Yeah.
So the pyramids at Teotihuacan, when you look at these pyramids from above, you can see that they almost perfectly align with the 3 stars of Orion's belt. Kind of cool, right? Fun fact, the pyramids at Giza are exactly the same. So, I mean, what are the odds of that?
Yeah.
What's even more eerie about the pyramids at Teotihuacan, though, is they were found to be built using many layers of materials, one of them being the mineral mica. Doesn't sound too odd, right? I mean, doesn't sound like, oh, okay, what's mica? Well, what if I told you that the mineral mica is not found anywhere in Central America, even to this day? There's no place in Central America that has any kind of significant mica anywhere in the ground, above ground, to where they would be able to get it from. The closest known place to find that specific mineral is thousands of miles away in modern day Brazil.
That's
so
odd.
how the hell did they get?
That's very odd.
Another interesting thing about mica is, and I didn't know this specifically, but we use mica today. Even to this day, we use mica in things like capacitors. They're great conductors of electricity. So is there something to be said about the Mayans and electricity as well? Why use mica? Why get mica from thousands of miles away when I'm sure you'd have had a lot of materials near you that would have sufficed?
Well, I mean, going back even to like Egypt, right? There was all sorts of speculation and conspiracy that electricity was involved in one way or another with the pyramids, whatever they are. That, as well as all the ancient civilizations who had never had any contact with each other or couldn't even do that. There was no way to do that. All made the same style of pyramids, all on its own line going around the earth perfectly, almost like the equator. So it really makes you wonder.
I don't know how much,
especially when you brought up the conduction of the mica. Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Here's another thing. One last thing about the pyramids at Teotihuacan. I actually looked that pronunciation up, so that's why I feel fancy saying it. When they're exploring the temples there, all of them, the Temple of the Moon, Temple of the Sun, and Quetzalcoatl, they also found, I don't know, it's not like they found pools of it, but it's not like they just found trace either. They found like heavy presence, if that makes sense, of mercury. Some of the belief of that is that mercury can be used as a fuel source because of its conducivity to electricity as well. And
Interesting.
so, is there a chance that maybe they were using some kind of advanced technology from somewhere else that ran on Mercury? Why else would they have Mercury there? You know?
Yeah.
So the big thing that everybody talks about, everybody knows about the Mayans, is the Mayan calendar. And I have kind of an explanation here of how it works. Bear with me because it's kind of, there's a lot of words that, again, don't really know how to pronounce them, but I'll try my best. So the Mayan calendar is called that because it's most associated with the Mayan people of Central America. It was, however, actually created before the Mayans were even a big thing. The base of it anyway, and the Mayans kind of tweaked it to be what we know it is today. And it was used by most pre-Columbian cultures of Central America. The Mayan calendar actually consists of three separate corresponding calendars. The three calendars are the Heb, the Zolkin, and the Long Count. Don't know why they have two crazy names and then one regular name. But I didn't know before doing this research. I didn't know that it was actually three calendars in one.
Well,
So
I
it's
didn't
news to me as
either.
well. I had no idea.
I thought that the only difference between that and the modern day calendar that we use now is they did not account for leap year.
that's part of the long count calendar. Our calendar is actually based off the Gregorian calendar from the 16th century.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
I thought it was
They
based
went
off of
from-
Mayan. So
I'm sure loosely. I'm sure at some point some of it transferred.
yeah.
Because the similarities are too similar. Their long count is or no, that's their long count. The Hayab is 365 day solar count. I mean, what are the odds that we're that close?
Yeah.
So, but no, it was the Julian calendar, which I believe had something to do with Caesar, and then in like the 16th century, the Gregorian calendar came out, which is what all of our calendars in the modern world are based off of today. I actually have a little bit about it here.
Cool.
So the Hayab, so that they're in like a ring. When you look at it, it's like a big, like, I don't know, like a pedestal kind of thing with like three big rings on it, and they can turn and whatever, and that's kind of how they use it. So the Hayab is a 365-day solar calendar. This calendar was used for planting crops. Mainly, that's why they made that one. Because when they made them in cycles. So because they didn't really care about years then, it was more of just like solar cycles for planting crops and whatnot.
Makes sense.
The Hayab, and they were big into, I believe it's 13 and 20 was like kind of their counting system is how they used. So the Hayab is divided into 18 months of 20 days each. And then that only comes to 360 for all my math wizards out there, which that's not me. I have it written down. Let's be real. So then they have 1 month at the end, which is only 5 days long. And I don't know. It's called the Uyeb, Uayeb. I don't know. But it's 5 days. And in these 5 days, they believe that they're unprotected from evil spirits. I don't really know why that is. I mean, they made the calendar, but that's kind of, they believe that those 5 days at the end of the year, because they counted in 20s, that are kind of like odd days, I guess, and they would be, days when the veil is the thinnest or what have you. The calendar has an outer ring of Mayan glyphs, which represent each of the 19 months, because there's 18 months, 20 days, and 1 month of 5. Each day is represented by a number in the month, following by the name of the month, and each glyph represents a personality associated with the month. So an eagle, a mouse, whatever, that kind of thing.
Kind of like Chinese calendars have the dragon, the rabbit,
Right.
or so forth.
Yeah.
Right.
On.
Right. Which is why I don't want to say our calendars aren't based on the Mayan calendar. I'm sure there was some leak there. We absorbed some of it.
Yeah.
So what we kind of touched on before, the Hayab is somewhat inaccurate as it's 365 days long, which exactly 365 days long. An actual tropical or solar year, the time it takes the Earth to orbit the sun takes about 365.24219 days, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when compounded over time, in today's Gregorian calendar, we adjust for this discrepancy by making almost every fourth year a leap year. When an extra day, a leap day, is added on the 29th of February. So that's why we have that, because over the course, and you'll see, I think I touched on it somewhere here, but I mean, if you go 1,000 years at being a quarter of a day off, you could be talking, you'd be off by years at that point. So
Yeah.
that's why they kind of put that in there. Any questions about the Hayab?
No, but Ross the Boss in the comments says his main throw off was the calendars and how did they know the rotation of the Earth to determine days when they didn't have technology?
Aliens.
Someone else just replied sundial.
Ninja. What up, guys?
Ninja.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the theory, is how did they build the pyramids? How did they get water? How did they do the,
I mean, let's face it. Basically, every ancient society, in their own right, in some way, shape, or form, were mathematical geniuses.
Mhm.
They
You
did
had
have
to be, because you didn't have access to Google then.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
there was inventions of sundials all throughout them. There were inventions of calendars all throughout them. They all figured out how to raise crops, irrigate the crops. They all figured out all these massive fucking structures that we can't figure out today. So I mean,
cartography.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, I couldn't draw you a map from here to the store without you going, "What the hell is this?" But they were drawing the Earth without having,
Mhm.
telescopes and overhead camera. I mean, so yeah, I mean, but maybe it was all aliens. I mean,
Who knows?
fucking
I mean,
Giorgio Tsoukalos.
You can't
Yeah.
even fit a piece of paper in between the cracks of those stones that they made for those pyramids. So
Yeah.
how the hell did they do it?
And how did
Yeah.
they cut them and transport them when it would have taken, I mean, basically the world's population today?
Right.
Yeah, even with modern tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
So I mean, I guess what I was getting at is we really kind of fall short on how much credit we give them for
Yeah.
their intelligence.
Right.
Yeah. Because here in modern society, we think we're all so smart, right?
Yep.
We got
Right.
all this modern tech, so we must be gods to these guys. I kind of disagree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too. I think it's the other way around.
For sure. For sure. So the second part of the calendar is the Zolkin, which to me kind of sounds Russian. So I don't know why it's whatever. It means the distribution of days. It's also called the Divine Calendar and the Sacred Round, are kind of nicknames for it. It's a 260-day calendar with 20 periods of 13 days. That's where they kind of counted in 13s and 20s. That was their thing. It's used to determine the time of religious and ceremonial events. The days in each period are numbered from 1 to 13, and each day is also given a name, like a glyph, like an eagle or whatever, from a sequence of 20-day names. Not really anything too special about that calendar. But here's the calendar that kind of sparked a lot of conspiracy. It's called the long count. It's an astronomical calendar which is used to track longer periods of time. The long count calendar spans roughly 1,870,000 days, which turns out to be 5,125 years approximately. The Mayans believe that the universe is destroyed and then recreated at the start of each universal cycle. So every 5,125 years, they believe the universe would be destroyed and then
Wait,
started.
can I stop you there?
Yeah.
What did they think of or know as the universe? Do we know?
Don't know.
Okay, because I would be really curious to think what they thought of the stars and the galaxies and stuff if they even knew. But
I mean,
anyway,
there was obviously some kind of no there. I mean, they lined the pyramids up with Orion's belt. I mean, you're not just gonna you're not gonna get that lucky. So they obviously had some kind of at least interest.
Yeah.
But I think I'll get into it a little bit more, or maybe Paul will get into it or something. Maybe I just read it and I didn't write it down. There's kind of speculation on what they meant by destroying the universe. Is it actually destroying, or is it just kind of like restarting a cycle, which we'll kind of get into a little bit later here.
Yes. I do cover a little bit of that, but it's from more of a particle physiology
Yeah.
standpoint than from a Mayan standpoint. So
I lead into it a little bit here. You're gonna be ready.
I'm still waiting to see your expressions on the ride I'm taking you guys on tonight. I have been
So,
just pumped.
Yes.
Unreal.
There is going to be some definite TikTok video footage.
100%.
Yes.
There's gonna be a lot of.
Yes.
Yeah, Paul, you've been real. Yeah, exactly. You've been real coxive about this, so I'm excited.
Dude.
All right. Let me push through the last little bit here.
Let's go.
So, a date in the Mayan calendar is specified by its position in both the Zolkin and the Hayab calendars, so the 365-day and the 260-day calendar.
Yeah.
This creates a total of 18,980 unique date combinations, which are used to identify each day within a cycle lasting about 52 years. This period is called the calendar round. In practice, the date combinations are represented by two wheels rotating in different directions. The smallest wheel consists of 260 teeth, with each one having the name of the days of the Zolkin, which is that's where they get each of their days is like a tooth on the wheel.
Okay.
The larger wheel consists of 365 teeth and has the name of each of the positions of the Hayab year. And as both wheels rotate, the name of the Zolkin day corresponds to each Hayab position. So that's kind of how the calendar works, just for a little backstory. So,
Okay.
You ready,
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Okay. So, the 2012 end of the world conspiracy, of which I'm sure everybody listening remembers, is based off of the Mayan long count calendar coming to the end of its cycle. According to records, this iteration of the long count calendar started in 3114 BCE, which 5,125 years later puts the end of the cycle in 2012. As you remember, the date that was set was December 21st, 2012. And that day and year came and went, and we all made it through just fine, right?
Yeah.
What if the world didn't end in the traditional way we think it did? What if it just ended as we know it? And this is where the connection between the Mayan Empire and CERN lies.
Yes.
Now it's your turn, Big Shoots.
All right, Big Shoots. Let's get this party fucking started now. Because,
Yes.
like I promised, this is going to be a ride. I
Right.
told Pants that he was not going to sleep when I was done with him. So,
I'm not gonna sleep tonight because I'm going in to have my wife induced to have my son born tomorrow. So
Yes, which,
I'm not sleeping anyway.
by the way,
Thank you
brother,
for being here,
congratulations.
by the way, dude.
And
Yeah,
yes,
congrats.
it's good that you're here. I gotta straighten out my cord on my headphones here, but we
There you go.
wish the best of luck to both you and Mama. You know, you
Thanks.
guys are gonna do great and push out that big watermelon of a child tomorrow, and I can't wait to meet him.
Good. fucking
There's
God.
another me coming into this world. I'm gonna need all the
Yes.
thoughts and prayers that you guys can muster up.
So anyway, without further ado, I'm gonna start out a little slow. I know that our viewers hate when I give history lessons or anything like that, and I promise you I did not drag this one out. We're gonna get into the good shit, we're gonna get into it quick,
Yeah.
and we're gonna start rolling, and there's gonna be a lot of room for open discussion.
Before we get into that, I was just looking into the comments. Another thing that happened. My wife said thank you
Yes,
for the
yes, you're
well
welcome.
wishes.
Very, very welcome.
Also, my mom said that Grandpa Pete is big into CERN. which,
Nice.
Why is he not on here this week?
Yes.
Could you imagine the ride? We had a 75-year-old guy on here who's, I mean, anybody that knows my grandpa, he is clapped
Yes,
to begin with.
yes.
I mean, I love the guy, but oof.
Grandpa Pete
Anyways.
would have been a very good guest host for
Oh,
this
God.
episode. So
I would have never guessed he even knew what CERN was, but
I'm going to break that down for us a little bit here. I've got two shorter paragraphs giving the background of CERN and some information on it. And then I break down into the Large Hadron Collider. And it just starts to run from there. So if you can bear with me through about the first 5 or 10 minutes, it's going to be a slower ride. But after that, we're on a fucking roller coaster. So,
Alright.
CERN.
What's this?
CERN is the European research organization that operates the largest particle physics laboratory in the world. Founded in 1957, the facility is located in a northwest suburb of Geneva, Switzerland, right on the border of France and Switzerland. There are 23 European states that belong to CERN, and the only non-European state that has been granted membership is Israel. CERN is also an official observer of the United Nations, so they are an official member just like a country, but it is unclear what role they play in it or what their granted permissions are within the UN. So when I was researching this, CERN is the only organization that is a member, that is not a country who is a member of the UN. They have been granted observer status. It is not the same status as a nation, and through that status, the UN can grant them specific permissions in certain aspects of their business. Go ahead.
Permission for what?
Yeah, what the?
Exactly.
What the hell does CERN do with anything that has to do with?
So
United Nations? I mean, I don't get it.
Through my speculation, and as I go on here, we'll learn a little bit more about my speculation on it. But I believe why they were granted that status, and I mean, I shouldn't say they're the only organization. I believe they're the only business organization, but because they are the
World domination is the only conclusion.
Because of
what
their business is, and the fact that they have the largest hadron collider in basically the world.
As far as I know, it's the only, like, really actual official one, right?
No, there's I think in my research there was 300 of them, and some of them span from the size of 5 inches all the way up to the size of this one being the largest, which we'll get into as well. But the only thing that I can speculate on their involvement with the United Nations is the fact that you have so many countries come there to do research, and that research is shared throughout a network to all universities. Everything that is done at CERN is made accessible by anybody within a research field at any organization. So Joe Blow at the pharmacy over here, if he's working on a new drug, he can sign up to gain access to that information, and he can go in there and he can get information from CERN unrestricted, basically. So I believe that their ties with the UN has something to do with that.
I don't buy it.
CERN is also the same acronym used for the research facility that is operated by the European organization. The most recent numbers that I could find were from 2016 and show a total of 2,500 staff members, and that they hosted a total of 12,000 users and physicists from other nations. That year alone, CERN produced 49 petabytes, which in familiar terms totals out to 49,000 terabytes of information.
Good God.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. CERN's main function is to provide the particle accelerators and other infrastructure needed for high-energy physics research. Numerous experiments have been conducted at CERN through international collaboration. CERN houses the largest and most powerful particle accelerator, known as the Large Hadron Collider, which we will get into in more detail very soon here. CERN currently operates a network of 6 accelerators and 1 decelerator. The machine is a member of the chain that eventually delivers a particle beam to the Large Hadron Collider or other experiments. A little fun fact for you guys too, CERN is the birthplace and creation home of the World Wide Web.
I did know that.
I didn't.
Yeah, news to me. I didn't know that.
It's like 1995 or something like that. One of the scientists there.
Yes.
invented it.
Going into CERN here, I'm going to pull this up, drag it over. I've got a map here showing the 2 different rings of the Large Hadron Collider. But this shows this down here in the southern portion southeast portion of the map as we're looking at it is Switzerland. This hard purple line right here that jets up over, that's the boundary line between France and Switzerland. So this is actually the ring of the Large Hadron Collider. This is a smaller collider that they now use to help ramp up the particles before it's sent into the Large Hadron Collider. Most of
Wait, so are those two connected?
yes,
So it's
Okay,
like a
so-
supercharger almost.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like it'll go super fast around the little one and then shoot out into the larger one.
and
if
and
I'm
there's a
understanding you
series.
correctly, right?
Yes, there's a series of magnets that boost the speed. I get into in the article what the speed is really quick, but I wanted to pull this up and show you guys. So this is, Geneva. It's a zoomed in portion of, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse or not, but this part of the
Yeah, we
map
can.
right here, and this just outlies. So basically all of this area right in here around Myron is where CERN is located, and they have various buildings set out around these rings for their research work.
God, that's massive. That's a lot bigger than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm. So getting
So
it,
that's just going underneath people's houses? Is that on top of the ground, underground? What
Well,
are we talking about there?
I'm getting into the Large Hadron Collider right now. We'll get into all that information in here, so
Okay.
your questions will be answered.
Bet.
The Large Hadron Collider is the world's largest particle collider and produces the highest energy of the known particle colliders in the world. Protons travel the tunnel at 99.9999% the speed of light. So it's not quite the speed of light, but we're just on the brink of that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the Large Hadron Collider is the largest functioning on planet Earth. It was built by CERN, with construction starting in 1998 and finishing in 2008. It took the collaboration of more than 10,000 scientists, hundreds of universities, and more than 100 countries to construct. The main tunnel is 17 miles in circumference, with most of the tunnel lying on the French side of the border, as we saw in that map. Fun fact about that, one of the videos that I watched while doing research on this stated that even though that the circumference of that tunnel is 17 miles, when they brought the two ends together and linked the final two pieces, they were only a half an inch off.
What?
Yes. When they were constructing that 17-mile tunnel for the particle accelerator for the beam to pass through, it was
Are
only
you talking like
Is that
17 miles like this?
yes,
Or 17 miles like this?
17 miles across.
okay? Well,
From one side
is
of
this
the tunnel
is
to
this
the
the
other.
first time in human history that an engineer saw something on paper and it almost came perfectly to fruition?
I believe so. I believe so.
I get it.
So anyway, moving forward, the tunnel is positioned 0.6 of a mile underground. So to answer your question, yes,
There we go.
this does
Okay.
run. It was bored underneath the overlying cities.
Yeah.
The collider has 4 intersections with other parts of its construction. At each intersection, there has been placed 7 different sensors for various types of research. The Large Hadron Collider primarily collides protons, but is also capable of colliding ions and lead combined proton and ion collisions as well.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I lived in France or Switzerland and my house was anywhere near this fucking thing, I would move instantly. I don't want something 0.6 of a mile below me exploding, just completely sending me to a parallel universe while I'm just trying to take a shit or something.
Yes. So the Large Hadron Collider has attributed to many advancements in physics to date. This is where we kind of start that roller coaster ride. This is where we're on that upward trajectory. Including the discovery of the Higgs boson particle, also known as the God particle, which is the particle that gives all matter its mass. The importance of this is because it basically came closest to scientifically explaining creationism within religion, and grants merit to the sudden appearance of our universe, also known as the Big Bang Theory.
Okay. R.I.P. to all of our viewers, by the way.
Yeah.
Small particles such as quarks and electrons are the foundation in which all matter in the universe is built. Before the discovery of the Higgs boson, it was widely believed that these particles zoomed around inside the Higgs field and they attracted the Higgs boson, thus creating matter. Why this is
So what you're saying is, theoretically, they have the ability to create life.
Yes. Not life, but theoretically they have the ability to create matter. This Higgs boson particle is what gives all matter its mass. So without the Higgs boson, you and I don't exist. Wood doesn't exist. Concrete doesn't exist. Our universe doesn't exist.
What are they making it? What are they making it out of? Like, what is it?
It's the result of a collision of electrons within the Higgs field, which is what I had just said. So there's this field, this energy field, and these electrons start zooming around in there. I explain it a little bit better further on in the conspiracy part of this. But they zoom around in this field collecting energy, and as they collide, they create the Higgs boson, which creates mass, which can lead to creation of universes, etc. Okay. So I'm going to keep going. I tie that in. Don't worry.
I have so many questions.
I'm thinking of, like, what about Einstein's theory about mass cannot be created or destroyed?
E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass. Right?
Get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the energy of those electrons in the Higgs field colliding, when they collide, they create the Higgs boson that creates the mass.
Now I may be touching on what you're going to talk about, and stop me if I am, but does that have to do with the speed? Because you mentioned the speed of light earlier. Does it have to be virtually there to create that?
Yes, it does.
Gotcha.
Yes, it does. So, why this plays importance into the conspiracy, as well as next week's topic, the Mandela effect, is it was discovered mid-year of 2012. That is the first time they were able to create the Higgs boson particle. It was June, I believe, 22nd of 2012 was the first creation of the Higgs boson. And after research to clarify that they did indeed find the God particle, CERN announced the breakthrough without doubt in January of 2013. Now we're on to the conspiracy, boys. This is the good stuff.
Here we go.
Many of you remember the 2012 conspiracy for the end of the world. There was constant talk, as mentioned by Pants earlier, of the Mayan calendar ending, signifying the end of the world. There was a lot of information out there with varying degrees of skeptitude on the subject. Rumors of the universe imploding in a massive black hole, to the collision with planet X, also known as Nibiru, brought widespread panic throughout the community. Oddly enough, today, very little information can be found on anything concerning the 2012 end of the world conspiracy. There was a lot of... Mm-hmm.
It's because it's all a conspiracy.
A lot of it has been removed. Back around that time, a lot could be found, but a lot of it has been removed.
They don't want you to know the truth. That's why we're here.
That's what we're here for.
Since 2012, an array of the population has been become convinced that we are living in a parallel universe.
I got goosebumps.
Here we go.
Fuck this.
So does my dog. He's trying to lick himself. Hey, stop it.
I'm going to get rid of my chew.
Oh, he's mad. Look at his face.
Get him, Panda.
Oh, yeah.
Don't encourage him. Anyways, sorry about
he's
that.
Gonna catch you when you're not looking.
I know, straight up.
Some think the world as we know it did in fact end in 2012. I was able to find a Twitter thread from 2019 titled "A Conspiracy Thread: Did the World End in 2012?" where the author Nick Hinton states, "I've wanted to talk about this subject for a while now. The other day I had a random urge to look into it again and read some old stuff, just for fun. Ever since then, I've noticed other people starting to talk about it again too." It also states difficulty in finding information to refresh his memory on a lot of what he remembered as well, but believes that the world ended in 2012 with the discovery of the Higgs boson, aka God particle. This is significant because renowned physicist Stephen Hawking had gone as far as predicting that the discovery of the Higgs boson held the potential to destroy the universe, or in his own words, cause the universe to undergo a catastrophic vacuum decay. So what would happen if we destroyed the universe? Some scientists believe it possible that CERN and the Large Hadron Collider have been creating microscopic black holes within the collider since the discovery of the Higgs boson. These black holes would be so minuscule that they would not be easily detected, pending we have the technology to detect them. Additionally, they would not be able to sustain disintegration for longer than less than half a fragment of a nanosecond, in theory. There is also belief in the numbers that the Large Hadron Collider could not produce energy to create black holes, but some scientists disagree with that as well, showing that the power of the Large Hadron Collider actually is on the edge of the capability, with gravity and additional dimensions playing a factor. So I gotta grab a piece of explain this the way I had it explained to me. Is if you've got two boxes, and the gravitational effect on those two boxes is 4, and you move one of those boxes its own size closer, it increases the gravitational effect on that. What they believe is going on in the Large Hadron Collider is it's only capable of X amount of voltrons of power. It may be creating parallel universes the size of the side of this sheet of paper. If that black hole lies on the side of that sheet of paper and the gravitational effects of Earth are multiplied by 256 times, it would be like that in our world. And it does hold the capability based off of its power amplification from gravity to create the black hole. In a nutshell, it was a lot longer, a lot more in-depth explanation than that. But it's all on how those planes of those parallel universes stem out from that collision. Where was
Okay,
I?
but now you'd be talking about like pancakes of parallel universes stacked on top of each other.
No, because they would disappear within the fragment of the nanosecond, because the black hole isn't going to be able to, it's too small to be able to sustain itself, and it doesn't have the matter to be able to suck into it, in theory, to allow it to sustain itself.
I gotcha. I see.
However, later on, we will get into another theory about what happens with black holes as we continue this ride. The plane of those dimensions could see the effects of gravity increased up to 256 times that as what we know of it in a fourth dimension. I say fourth dimension because Einstein had a theory wherein we recognize the 3 dimensions of space, but we leave out the 4th dimension of time within our realm. So we do actually live in a 4th dimensional universe, although science can't explain it in 4 dimensions of space, if that makes sense. That is because we recognize space as 3 dimensions. I already said that. Anyway, but I digress. What would a world look like if we were living in a black hole, like some scientists do theorize? Well, this leads us into multiverse theory. Multiverse theory is that in which scientists believe that our universe is not only one like it in existence. Instead, we are part of a multiverse where there are thousands of other universes exactly like it, its own shining speck in the night sky. How or if these universes are linked together is a source of much debate. It is, at this highly based speculation, with no way to prove it at this time. One compelling idea, however, is that the seed of a universe is much like that of a plant. It is a chunk of essential, tightly packed material hidden inside of a protective shell. This is, in layman terms, describes exactly what a black hole is. Theory is that a black hole can eventually reach a state where it can no longer compress matter anymore. At this point, it starts to spin very fast, reaching near the speed of light like the particles in a Large Hadron Collider. This would invoke the mass to suddenly unspring, theoretically causing what we know as the Big Bang. Black holes larger than our sun have been found all throughout our universe. Some have even been as close as the Milky Way. Theoretically, this means that black holes are like a one-way door between two universes. If you tumble into a black hole, it is conceivable, through science findings, that you, or the shredded particles of you, would end up in another universe. The black hole is merely a shared route between universes, much like how roots can be shared by two large trees. There is a lot of people that feel that since 2012 nothing has felt right. Maybe it has something to do with us collectively aging. Maybe it has to do with the lack of communicating these feelings with our elders to compare. But many also feel that since 2012, time has seemed to have gotten faster as well. And notice that the world seems to be spinning more and more into chaos every day. Mass shootings are headline news on the regular now, and rarely stay headlines for more than 12 hours. The riots, lootings, bombings, all of these massive catastrophic events, starting in large happenstance in the 2012 era, and continuing regularly onward to today. Nick Hinton states that he believes we live in a similar situation to that of the characters on the show The Good Place. Maybe we live in a series of simulations, and that's our universe, and that our universe was destroyed by CERN with the creation of the Higgs boson, and our collective consciousness was just moved to a parallel universe next door. This parallel universe would be almost identical to the one we came from. This leads us into the Mandela effect. We will cover this in great detail next week, but as a precursor, the Mandela effect is the occurrence of altered memory of reality. There was even a 4chan viral thread a while back. It's now gone, but I looked for it, couldn't find it. Where the author had claimed to be one of the 23 scientists that was responsible for creating the Mandela effect. This person claimed that the planet was destroyed and we were placed in a simulated world. The interesting part is, the author described reality being like a set of Russian nesting dolls, with worlds within worlds, or a simulation inside of a simulation, forever repeating. Aside from the Mayans, the belief that the end of the calendar, aside from the Mayans and the belief that the end of that calendar marked the end of the world, there has been others who predicted it as well. One of these people was Terence McKenna. He didn't necessarily predict the end of the world, but a reality rearranging event. His work describes time being like that of a coiled tape inside of a VHS. It continuously wraps around itself until it eventually runs out. The spiral goes on forever, but there is only a finite amount of time. So we ask ourselves, is there another meaning to the end of time? Preston B. Nichols, who claims to be a whistleblower and an author of books detailing the Montauk Air Force Base time travel experiments, claims that during the experiments, those participating could never travel farther than 2012, because a future beyond that simply could not be found. According to Preston, there was an abrupt wall with no plane of existence on the other side. I find it very odd that he claims this in an interview from 2014. You're already past that wall. Why even bother mentioning it? What would make it worth mentioning, if you were very obviously well beyond that point, would be the jump from one universe to another. Another little excerpt from this section is that both the Stranger Things and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind are loosely based off of the experiments at Montauk.
Yeah, by the way, Stranger Things. God, want to shout them out. Just found out they had a fucking they have like a drive-through kind of Stranger Things themed Halloween event that was going on in Los Angeles, and I really wish I lived in San Diego still, because I really wanted to go check that out.
So I'm moving on to my final paragraph here, but there is also a theory floating around that we haven't actually seen the end of the world, but have seen stagnation of human progress, which the end of the 2012 calendar marked. In this theory, speculation into things like the end of human history as we understand it. It is speculated that events would still continue to happen, but it would bring about the end of human social cultural revolution. When you sit back and look at where we are in the world today, this makes sense. Technology in the last 30 years has divided us farther apart as a species. We have become soul dependent in a way, using our phones and computers more to communicate and favoring this over face to face interaction, even within our own homes. Simply seek to advance in the ideology of progress as a species. It has been compared to a dream like purgatory. This is the theory that is found the most when attempting to research anything on the subject of the world ending. Perhaps the universe is stuck in a constant cycle of expanding and contracting, with the Big Bang and Big Crunch happening over and over again, and humanity is just stuck tagging along for the ride. I don't even know what I know anymore after researching this one, boys. The only thing that I do know that for sure is that our FBI guys are definitely getting fired for letting us put this episode of the podcast on.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm expecting either a knock on my door or my phone to ring here. In 3, 2.
Yep, any fucking second now it's gonna be, hey guys, end that.
Yep. Ching ching. Delete that now.
Yeah, goodbye.
So that's what I've got on my research for the subject. Wondering how you guys. I know there were so many questions. Pants is just in awe over that.
I'm sorry, I just have to reiterate. Your wife said you helped put Rosie to sleep. Thank you.
Good.
God, there's so much to touch on there. I don't even know where to start. Okay,
just,
well, I know where I'm starting now.
It just doesn't really do it for me, to be honest. I don't know.
There's just a lot there.
Yeah, I'm kind of, to be honest, I'm more interested in the offshoots of it, like the Mandela effect and stuff like that, versus, just because, like, in layman's terms, I mean, I understand what you said, but like, we don't even understand a lot of what you're saying. Like, even the stuff that you were reading, I'm sure it's so much more than that.
Yes.
And if you were like a scientist, you'd be going, "What the fuck? I can't believe that XYZ does this." Blah blah blah.
Yes.
I
definitely thought you were going to be a lot more what the fuck over this than you are. I'm not disappointed in that coming from, but I thought there was going to be a lot in there that sparked a whole lot of conversation. I know Bill's got a lot of questions. Well, he's trying to put that together. I do have a photo of the CERN tunnel, the Large Hadron Collider tunnel, that I'm going to pull up, put on screen right now for our viewers. So this is what it looks like inside that 17-mile loop. This tunnel is consisted of magnet after magnet to help propel the particle beam to the speed necessary to create the Higgs boson particle.
So this is an actual photo of it?
Yes. Okay. Yes, this is the actual tunnel. What's that? Okay. You broke up.
Supposedly.
Yes, supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah.
I have another one here. This is an aerial view.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
This is an aerial view of the area with the drawn line of CERN and the different intersections. Now, like on this one, you can see right through here where different parts of the tunnel access the smaller ring. Got the larger ring, smaller ring, bisecting area here between buildings, but there's buildings here, buildings over here, buildings over here. This is part of it. This is part of it. And then there's also smaller outlying buildings on this section of the ring as well.
So there's just like thousands of people living on top of this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder what life's like for them. Like honestly, because
Terrifying.
I mean, if this thing could create a black, like even a little black hole that for whatever reason, like you said, should just disappear in a nanosecond.
Yes.
Well, let's say it fucking doesn't. I
They're
mean,
gone.
good God, I want to be. I mean, I get it. We're screwed either way, being on the same planet, but I don't want to be anywhere near that damn thing.
I mean, we're all gonna go.
I was taking notes as you were going there, and
I mean, there's
you virtually answered every question I had. But I mean, you brought Terrence McKenna up, so
there's laws against jaywalking. There's no laws against building this thing underneath a massive population.
Nope.
What the fuck?
Yeah, especially split between two countries. I get most of it's in France, but yeah, what?
I have to wear my seatbelt in the car when if something happens, it affects nobody but me. But these clowns can just build this ticking time bomb underneath.
Well,
in theory, it's
now we
not
understand why
actually,
they're part of the United Nations, right? Now we get it. I think that sort of solidifies it.
In theory, it's not actually a dangerous society because the explosions, the explosions that are taking place are on a microscopic level.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start looking into the Higgs boson and understanding that, I mean,
when you start looking into humans screwing with things they shouldn't be fucking with.
Yes.
Yeah, literally playing God.
Yes.
So.
You know, you start looking into the Higgs boson a little bit more and deep diving that. It's kind of scary because, I mean, yeah, if that is what was responsible for the Big Bang, what in the fuck are we playing with? You know?
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I had for you, based on your research here, with when, like you were mentioning, that eventually black holes can only get so small, right? And then that's what you thought the Big Bang theory could be. What the fuck if that happens in their little hadron collider? That's I don't understand how is this like a minor like he was mentioning jaywalking and all that. Like how is this just beneath us? Well, not us, but you get it, beneath people.
Yeah, it's just
with
a little
all
black
this
hole,
potential for we're just making black holes, guys. Everyone calm down. We're just colliding neutrons and atoms, and we're just doing things.
So
let's forget about the nuclear bomb.
We're just making antimatter that when it comes into contact with regular matter, it literally could blow up the entire planet. Yeah, it's not a big deal, you know, whatever.
Yeah, this is not the year for it. Somebody needs to unplug 2020 and restart it. And I think CERN is where they need to restart it. Just unplug it and plug it back in.
If it helps put your mind at ease, the Large Hadron Collider has been shut down since 2018 for repairs. It's not scheduled to start up again until...
That makes me so much fucking better.
Yeah.
It's not
like going on an airplane and be like, yeah, we just had this thing out of the fucking shop. We just a complete overhaul. Yeah, that just makes me feel safe.
Yeah, no, we're fine now.
Here we go.
What if they've been secretly fucking with it in 2020 and that's why we're in this weird...
This is where I'm going to make Pants lose his shit. The repairs that it was shut down for, they're making it stronger. The particles are going to be able to travel faster. The particles will be able to travel faster than the speed of light. And it's not set to be turned. It's not set to be turned back on until first or second quarter of 2021.
You know what?
Right, there goes 2021. Fuck it. 2020 was bad enough. There goes 2021.
I know how I am as a person and wanting to beef things up and making things faster. So I was literally gonna say they're probably shut down and they're just putting fucking ching chong whirly boys and tanks and knocks on this thing. And we're just going to fucking get after it in 2021.
For lack of a better word, we're going to collide right into 2021. 2020 and 2021 are just going to...
In my research...
I mean, we're all asking for a reset of 2020, but I don't think we literally meant that.
Yes. In my research, they are actively attempting to create and verify the creation of microscopic black holes.
Why?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
I sleep at night just fine, not having a damn idea where a black hole comes from, microscopic or not. Why do we gotta know?
why do they gotta
Why do
risk?
we
Why
gotta?
do they gotta
Why
risk
do
our
we gotta
entire planet
create?
for it?
Why do we gotta create matter?
So
Why? Why can't we just? It just is. So just
if it
let's not fucking destroy the whole world.
if it helps put your mind at ease at all,
It's not going to.
black holes, when they are in the process of this compacting procedure that they go through with all the matter that they suck in, they release something called Hawking's radiation, named after Stephen Hawking. A microscopic black hole would not release enough Hawking's radiation to affect any of the outlying area. So, in theory, Chernobyl is more dangerous than a microscopic black hole.
I mean, while that's fair, the potential is a lot different. I think.
My point is what happens when a human who makes errors fucks up one thing and all of a sudden that black hole doesn't come out microscopic.
Yeah, yeah. The
I
one thing
mean-
I've learned about science is it does not care about human error.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It doesn't give a shit
No.
if you fuck up. Well, there we go.
there is no variable for dumbasses running shit. There's none.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually did find as well in my research a story about a individual who stuck his head into a hadron collider and had the beam go through his head.
Good. Honestly.
I mean,
Fuck.
is
It
he
was-
alive?
Yes, he
I-
lived through it. He saw 3,000
Unfortunately.
he saw 3,000 times more the radiation introduced to his body than what was present at Chernobyl when the firefighters and employees were killed.
So how is he alive?
They don't know.
Alien. Bro, I'm telling you, he's not from this fucking planet.
They don't know how
No, he's from this fucking planet. He's human. If he's dumb enough to put his head inside that collider, yeah, he's human.
So
Maybe he's from another planet where radiation gives them superpowers and the motherfucker is taking over. I'm telling you.
he
Just why do we have to screw with stuff? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we just
let it go?
why can't we just have the Berenstein Bears and not the fucking Berenstain Bears? And why is fucking Nelson Mandela dead and then alive and then dead and alive? And why?
Well, that's what we're here for.
Yes. So anyway, this guy, he had a particle beam introduced left side of the back of his head, came down at an angle and out the front of his face through his nose. He was not expected to make it through the night. He made it through the night. The skin started peeling around the beam zone. Made it through. He was a renowned scientist. I don't remember his name offhand. I didn't put that into here. But he is, I believe, currently 75 years old. He still works in the field. The left side of his face has not aged since the day that it happened.
What?
Yes.
Wait.
So
Is there a picture you can pull up?
Hollywood is funding this then.
Hmm?
This is where I'm going with this. Is that this is why they're doing it.
I don't know.
It's not to create matter, it's not to create black holes, it's to fucking make people live forever.
Yeah, is it the fountain of youth? I mean,
No, he's not going to live forever. His health is rapidly declining.
Well, yeah, they
Since
only
age
got
70.
one side of his fucking head.
But his face itself hasn't aged. He's seen paralysis on the left side of his body as a
So
result of it.
this dude looks like fucking Harvey Dent from Batman.
Yes.
Which is like one side of his face clapped and the other side he's like 28.
Yes.
wait. So can you pull that up? Is there any pictures or anything that you can
There's
find?
gotta be a picture of
Let
this
me
guy.
look and see what I can find.
Yeah, because I really want to see this guy's face. Not gonna lie. Trying to replace Botox.
All right. So
Yes.
There's better ways of doing that.
Anatoly Bugorsky. I can pull up the Wikipedia and give you guys if you guys want to get a little
Of course
background
he's
on this.
revived. He's Russian.
Yeah, let's touch on it.
All right.
This is like a Sunday afternoon for them guys.
So the accident. As a researcher at the Institute for High Energy Physics and Protonio, Russia, Gorsky worked with the largest particle accelerator in the Soviet Union, the U-70 synchrotron. On the 13th of July, 1978, Bogorsky was checking a malfunctioning piece of equipment. Lesson learned here, kids. This is why lockout tagout is important. When the safety...
God, I love that you said that.
Yes. When the safety mechanism failed, Bogorsky was leaning over the equipment when he stuck his head in the path of the 76 GeV proton beam. GeV is an electron volt measurement. Reportedly, he saw a flash brighter than 1,000 suns, but did not feel any pain. The beam passed through the back of his head, the occipital and temporal lobes of his brain, the left middle ear, out through the left-hand side of his nose. He had a dose of 200,000 to 300,000 rotogens, which is how they measure radiation. Bogorsky understood the severity of what had happened, but continued working on the malfunctioning equipment and initially opted not to tell anyone what had happened. Now, in the video that I watched, and it's tell us here in the aftermath. Hey, thanks for the follow. It's the left half of Bogorsky's face swelled up beyond recognition, and over the next several days, skin started to peel, revealing the path that the proton beam moving near the speed of light had burned through parts of his face. His bone and the brain tissue underneath, as it was believed that he had received far in excess of a fatal dose of radiation, Bogorsky was taken to a clinic in Moscow where the doctors could observe his expected demise. However, Bogorsky survived, completed his PhD, and continued working as a particle physicist. There was virtually no damage to his intellectual capacity, but the fatigue of mental work markedly. Bogorsky completely lost hearing in the left ear, replaced by a form of tinnitus. Left half of his face was paralyzed due to destruction of nerves, and he was able to function well, except occasional complex partial seizures and rare toxic clonic seizures. Bogorsky continued to work as a physicist at the Institute of High Energy Physics and held the post of coordinator of physics. Because of the Soviet policy of maintaining on nuclear powered related issues, Bogorsky did not speak publicly about the accident for over a decade. He continued going to the Moscow Radiation Clinic twice a year for examinations and to meet with other nuclear accident victims. Described as a poster boy for Soviet and Russian radiation medicine. In 1996, he applied unsuccessfully for disability status to receive epilepsy medication.
Unsuccessfully?
Yes.
Did I hear that right?
Yes. Bogorsky showed interest in making himself available to study to Western, but could not afford to leave Protovono. So I'm going to try to find a photo of this. Now that I
found one. It's not as crazy as it sounds. It's not. He doesn't have like a 28-year-old face on one side and a 75-year-old face on the other. However, I did come across a picture of Steven Tyler that somebody had did that to, and I'm definitely not sleeping tonight. You gotta love the internet.
I think this will be a good picture here. So it's not as drastic as it immediately seemed, but you can see a clear difference in aging. He looks at least 10 years younger on one side than the other.
Yeah, it almost looks like he had a stroke.
Yeah, and this is another one where you can see.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't expect that to be the topic of focus, but I thought it was fun to mention anyway.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, Paul, I'm reading the comments here. It sounds like you were cutting out to a couple of the viewers.
Yeah, I probably wasn't directed at the microphone enough. I
Yeah.
still going through adjusting it and trying to find the right mix.
Okay. Can everybody hear okay now?
They should be able to.
Yes.
Is this life after Alex Trebek? Unreal.
So,
Good God.
I mean, you guys got questions?
Oh, I mean, God, you went down a
Now,
rabbit
why
hole.
the fuck is that dude sticking his head in a fucking particle accelerator?
There was
Yeah,
something
yeah,
wrong
forget
with
partners.
it.
Broken? Leave it. Abandon the project. Jump ship. Move to
Blow
a different
everything
country.
up.
Be done.
Yeah, just get out of. I mean, I couldn't. When you were telling the story, I couldn't actually believe he did that.
Yes.
I mean, this dude's like a scientist.
Yeah, you're one of the
Like,
smartest people in the
supposed
world.
to be an intellectual human being, and he's just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll climb in there. What could go wrong? They didn't even unplug it before he climbed in.
Nope.
Couldn't you just like unplug it from the wall, cut the power to it?
And you'll see
I
a
don't
world of OSHA violations.
know.
A world of Russian radiation.
Oh, there you go.
E.
I like it.
So I didn't.
Rocksteady says not a very heads up guy.
Rock steady. Fucker's back.
Yes.
Yes.
Cheers, brother.
I don't know. I think we have it down on the list as far as multiverse, and I know we have simulation theory on the list. But you guys want me to touch on multiverse a little bit? Because I've got some photos that I can show that'll make you go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I, in regards to CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, I guess my opinion, I think something happened. I don't know if it's because of the Hadron Collider or what, but I mean, like you touched in your research, shit kind of been going down since 2012.
Hmm.
And like I had said before, you know, the Mayans said every 5,125 years, the world would be, or the universe would be destroyed and restarted. And that there was some kind of speculation on like literally just and a new one made, or maybe just like a little bit of world as we know it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
So,
something I left out, there's also another theory going around now, and I feel like take it with a grain of salt, but there's scientists now that are looking at the Mayan calendar, and they're thinking that their calculations were off, and that we added in the transition between the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar, which the Gregorian calendar, for people that weren't here before, is the calendar that we use today. They're thinking somewhere in there's an 11-year difference, and that 2020 is actually 2012.
Yeah,
on the
I heard. I
calendar.
heard the same theory. I heard the
That's-
same
Which-
theory.
With the state of things today,
that's actually been theorized
wouldn't be too far-fetched.
since shortly after December 21st, 2012 came around. So, and that was based off of the fact that they did not factor in leap year.
Yeah.
And so forth and so on. So, but what I was going to show you guys about multiverse theory, and I mean, it'll play into simulation theory a little bit too. I really don't want to touch a whole lot on simulation theory because that's a really good, longer episode. But I've got some pictures here from the Twitter thread that I had mentioned.
Oh, speaking of that, that Nick Hinton guy is the seventh letter of the alphabet, because he did a thread on Antarctica as well, among other things. But
Really?
if you're ever looking for a good, if you're ever looking for a good account to go to get like quick information, you know, not too in depth, but enough to do your own research, look him up. It's at Nick Hinton with 2 N's.
That's actually where I found that what we led the episode off with, that new sculpture at Denver. It
Mhm.
was
Yeah, he's
buried.
got all kinds of good shit on his account.
It was buried within that 2012 thread.
Yeah.
But so on his read about the end of the world, I had found some really good photos. And the first one I'm going to show you, which doesn't really have to do a whole lot with ruining simulation theory or multiverse theory, but it can show the possibility of multiverse theory, where we talked about the Higgs boson ending the world in 2012 and us just be our collective consciousness being moved from the world we knew to another one because it was gone. This is 500 million stars in the Andromeda galaxy as seen by the Hubble Space Telescope. So if each one of those held one Earth, what's the probability of that multiverse theory?
That's always been my thing about, you know, extraterrestrials and whatever is there's what are the odds? There's so much planets and stars and everything out there that how can it not?
You know,
I mean, yeah. So that's exactly my thing. Just thinking logically and statistically, do the math. What are I mean of what we know is out there? What is the actual logical statistical
Right.
ratio there that we're the only living sentient beings? I don't buy it
yeah.
at all.
Right.
There's just no way.
I want to ask you guys, what do you remember about the Statue of Liberty?
That there's an
What do you mean?
inscription on the back and help Nick Cage find fucking treasure.
Where do you guys remember learning that the Statue of Liberty was located?
What do you mean?
Is it on Ellis Island?
So
I thought it was its own island.
yeah, it's not. It's its own island in New York Harbor, is what I was.
Because I remembered it learning that it was on Ellis Island.
Well, you got to understand, and here's a little deep pull for a few people listening. You got to understand where we went to school, and
Yes.
especially where you went to school, there, Chief.
I only have 4
So-
years there, so watch your Bob.
Well, no, I'm talking about
Iron Mountain.
all the places you went.
So
It's kind of just like one shit show after the another.
I'm gonna hurry up. And
No,
drag
but
this
I did when you say that, I feel like I vaguely remember, but I kind of did some research into it, and then I don't think I ever learned that.
in all honesty,
Yeah, I see where you're going with it, but I mean, as I think Rocksteady says, it was a gift from France and it's copper.
yes,
That's what we know about it,
Yes.
and it's placed on its own little separate little island right in the harbor there.
I remembered it being on Ellis Island, and this is a photo. This isn't a Google photo. This isn't off of Google Earth. It's not off of maps. This is a photo that somebody took where the
Okay.
Statue of Liberty has been removed from Ellis Island.
I mean, they could have just very easily just cropped that out.
I'm not denying that. It would take some killer.
I mean, not really.
Photoshop
They just
work, but-
They just match the background and replace the statue with the background on each side.
So this is Lady Liberty on Liberty Island. Today.
Okay.
This is Lady Liberty from an older photo. It's obviously a painting. So there's still speculation to the correctness of it, but this is Lady Liberty on Ellis Island.
Okay.
Both on the same mount. You guys remember anybody our age ever going up to the Statue of Liberty's torch?
No.
Well, fun fact, my middle school, when you hit 8th grade, you went on an 8th grade trip, and every year it was to New York. I was not allowed to go on the trip because I was the class clown and the little shit. So
No,
go figure. I was not allowed to go.
Not you.
I don't
But-
believe that.
But yeah, no, everyone talked about the Statue of Liberty and how awesome it was to do a little tour and go to the top, and that's that. But I was not allowed to go.
Now, that's going to the top, and I don't know if any of our viewers can recall this, but does anybody recall being able to go to the torch specifically?
I heard stories.
I don't
of
even
people
know if
going
I
to the
know
torch.
anybody that's been to New York,
So
let alone to the top of the statue.
I am currently trying to find the pictures now.
My dad got into a fight with a cop there once, but that's about all I know.
Dude, you guys are like 5 states away from it. I mean, I am on the complete opposite coast.
Bill, sheltered life, brother. I'm telling you, until last year, I had never been farther south than Illinois, which is
Unreal.
one state below me.
Yeah.
And I've never, still to this day, well, I went to Virginia actually, but until this year when I went to Virginia, I had never been farther east than Ohio,
Unreal.
which is like 1.5 states over.
Yeah.
Sheltered life, man.
Good God.
Um,
So I'm reading the comments, and Ross the Boss says, didn't they stop that because people were jumping off of it?
no, that's not.
That was right after he roasted Bill about his education
That-
too, Bill.
that
There's
is
fines to
not-
that in there.
In fact,
The last
why
grade
they
he
stopped
completed.
it.
Yes.
So
Yes, absolutely correct. I didn't get that till Pants clarified, so thank you for that. That just shows how the last
I
educational grade I had.
I can't find the photos on Nick Hinton's page. I don't know if Pants can do a little work to help me out here. But there were photographs in a thread where Nick Hinton showed photos taken from Lady Liberty's torch.
Okay.
Reportedly, the first terroristic attack by another country on U.S. soil was not Japan and Pearl Harbor. Reportedly, it was
I'm
Germany.
sure it wasn't.
Germany, and I believe it was 1938, injured 50,000 and killed like 220 people. And then it was he's got that on here too. I can't find the website either that led me to his Twitter.
Mandela effect doesn't exist anymore.
It's got to be because I don't think I've ever heard that before. Ever.
Let me see if I can find something. But it was after that.
I feel like that's definitely something that I should have learned about. Must have happened on like Guam or something, which I mean, no offense to Guam.
Oh, it looks like, yep, right here. 1916 German terrorists launch attack on U.S. soil. So,
1916.
Where?
In New York, an explosion that initially looked like an accident turned out to be an act of sabotage. 2 years after the start of World War I, Greater New York region was a major hub of the American munitions industry, with 75% of all ammunition and armaments shipped from the United States to Europe going through or within a radius of 5 miles of City Hall in Lower Manhattan, according to the Sabotage at Black Tom by Julius Whitcover. It was Black Tom, once a small island that was the single most important assembly and shipping center in America for munitions and gunpowder being sent to allies. It probably housed the most extensive arsenal anywhere outside of the war zone itself. While the United States had not entered World War I and was officially neutral, American dealers could legally sell to any of the warring nations. Most of the arms, however, were going to the Allies, Britain, France, and Russia, because the British Navy had blockaded Germany. First of the Black Tom explosions was felt at 2:08 a.m., followed half an hour later by a second blast. At least 5 people were killed, including a baby in Jersey City who was thrown from its crib. And there was an estimated $20 million, the equivalent sum of $500 million today, in property damage.
Good God.
The blast also wreaked havoc on the site, as described by Whitcover. The Black Tom promontory was a charred ruin. 13 huge warehouses were leveled and 6 piers destroyed. Fires continued to eat their way through the remains and consume hundreds of railroads, cars, barges tied to the docks, and at one point a huge cavern was hollowed out from the earth by the explosion of some 87 dynamite-laden railroad cars. The blast excavated a hole so deep that it extended below sea level. Water seeped in until a vast pond was created, strewn with wreckage. So, if I can...
When did this happen?
1916.
Does it say when? Like,
Nope, just in 1916. I'm trying to find...
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I mean, why was that not in our history books? That's insane.
Because we didn't join World War I until April of 17.
Yes.
So, I mean, if it was, why not? I mean, I can't believe I've never heard of that before.
Well, I guess that could have been the Pearl Harbor of World War I.
Your wife says July 30th, 1916. So why the fuck
Atta
did it
girl.
take 8 months? Why the fuck did it take 8 months to get if we were attacked by German terrorists?
Don't know. I'm trying to find the now though. I can.
I'm just pissed off at the public school system for not teaching me this. Why am I hearing about this on like a happenstance sort of situation on our podcast?
I mean, especially something like that, because like, you know, whether you agree with it or not, school tends to teach stuff that glorifies the war effort.
Yeah.
So something like that, I feel like, you know, that would be like all of a sudden, you know, I don't know, 80 years from now, they don't teach kids about September 11th. Maybe they won't. But like, to me, that's crazy. I can't imagine not learning about that.
Okay, Ross the boss says you're tiptoeing in the border like going into politics. Not sure I get the reference. How so?
I don't really understand.
Yeah, I don't get the reference. While he's looking that up, go ahead and comment again, Ross. Let's understand what you're saying here.
Okay, I found them. So here are pictures. Allegedly, we have not been able to go to the Statue of Liberty's torch since shortly after that attack. Here is a picture taken in 2013 from the torch, and it shows a very demented version of the picture. You can see that it's very skewed. It almost looks like it was taken with a 3D camera before they were really around. And the speculation behind this is that these were...
I don't think that looks anything like the torch at all.
It may not be, but the speculation is that these were taken by maybe possibly some time travelers, or
I mean, go back, pull that back up again. Go back.
Across of dimensions.
So, do you see that black portion of the picture, top right corner?
Mm-hmm.
The whole black portion. That's a stitched together photo. That black portion of the photo doesn't exist because it's not there. It's a couple photos that they tried to stitch together, and that just happened to be that random dead space. Like, you see that a lot with zoomed up close videos that someone else took from someone else's phone where they were too shaky while they're trying to film something, and they take that same video and they zoom it in and crop it there so you don't see all that black excess space.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what that is right there.
I get you, but now that I have this up, look at the right here. This is a Twitter page. Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island Foundation. I mean, this is what we're here for: is a deep dive into this kind of shit and try to figure it out and
Yeah, of course.
and speculate. So I'm not at all saying you're wrong. I'm bringing this up, saying what the hell, you know. And then there's a YouTube video link here, a collection of Facebook photos where people have tagged their location at Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island. However, the people are posing in front of and staring at nothing. It's really unsettling. So there's a YouTube video for you. I'm going to pull this back off stream. I keep looking because there was a photo of article that was associated with that attack. That in 1938, they no longer allowed people up to where it is, right? All right. Here's the news article that he shared. And he says, apparently right before the United States entry into World War I, the Germans committed the first act of terrorism on U.S. soil. It was considered one of the largest artificial non-nuclear explosions to have ever occurred. He too says, I'm wondering why I didn't hear about this in school. Because I don't recall learning about it ever. The first act of terrorism on U.S. soil I always remembered being taught was Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, that's what I learned as well. So, I mean, I heard about the Oklahoma bombings and I heard about the first attempt at the World Trade Centers, but nothing like this.
So my numbers were drastically off, but I was in the ballpark range. I said 50,000 hurt and like 220 dead. It was 50 dead and 21 hurt in City Hospital, according to this article. So
I mean that's a big difference, but still, I don't, like I said, I don't remember hearing about this. You know, and I guess to kind of answer Ross too a little bit more, and I mean no offense by this at all, but I guess when I'm talking about that, to me that's no more political than questioning anything the government covers up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yes.
Doesn't matter who's in charge at that point in
Yeah.
time. It's just just what it is.
So here is other
Hang on, Paul. Ross said that Bill, he sent you a picture. They removed the torch and replaced it with the face. I don't really know what that means, but he said he sent it. He said he sent it to you.
He did. And looking at it, that's what we get.
weird.
Can't really tell. I know it's a phone, but
Yeah.
Huh.
It's a flatbed truck with a face of it, kind of spray painted green a little bit, and then the torch disassembled behind it on the back end of a semi truck flatbed.
So going further down this rabbit hole, Nick Hinton says, this explosion is the reason the Statue of Liberty's torch is closed to the public. It's been closed for over 100 years. There's only one problem, though. People remember going there. Check this out.
Like he's saying that it's closed as in like you can't, because I feel like I've heard like you can go inside of it, right? Like it was built with like scaffolding inside of it for like repairs and stuff. So he's saying you can't go inside of it, or like you can't go to it.
You can't go to the torch anymore. You can go to the top of the Statue of Liberty, but you can no longer go to the torch. So this woman says, when I visited there as a teen, you could actually climb right up into the torch, which I did, of course, and look out. It was quite a thrill. It's sad that security has now taken all that kind of thing away. And of course, I remember returning by ship from studying in Germany and seeing the statue, welcoming us as we came home. There's other numerous accounts where people that I have pulled up right now recall going to the torch of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even I've heard accounts from people, personal people I know that say they've been there. I wasn't aware of this being a conspiracy up until about
5 minutes ago.
A year. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know of anybody specifically going up there, but I guess at some point in my life, I learned or assumed that you could climb to the top.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay,
That's a
so
thing I always thought you could do. I don't know.
yeah, exactly. Me too. But here's where Ross Boss is kind of connecting the dots back to his original question. He's saying that as we're talking about it, he looked it up and they covered it up by saying people were committing suicide by jumping off of it. So to bring it back to his first original comment about it, didn't they close it because people were committing suicide? So now it sounds like what he's saying, based off what he just quickly researched, was that they were covering it up based on people committing suicide.
That's interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah, makes you wonder. I mean, what? I mean, it's as simple as something having an extra staircase, right? Well,
Yes.
I don't get why it's a huge conspiracy because it's like either they have access to this staircase to take you up to the
I mean,
fucking
here, like even here, now this is, I wouldn't say from a reputable source, but I just Googled, can you climb the Statue of Liberty? And this is from a website. There's a whole article that they made or whatever. And according to this article, you can make the climb to the top of the statue. There's 377 steps between the lobby of the pedestal and the top of the crown. Although you can use an elevator to the top of the pedestal, you'll have to walk the last 162 steps from there to the crown. The narrow spiral staircase can be crowded, so the walk may be slow.
Hmm.
They make it sound like you can.
Well, is that the climb? Is
Children,
that the climb to the top of the Statue of Liberty, or is that a climb to the actual
Torch.
hand holding the torch? That's what the whole debate is, I
Yeah.
guess.
oh,
Yeah, because you can still go to the top of the Statue of Liberty. You just can no longer go to the torch.
oh, I thought you were saying
According
you
to
couldn't even like climb the statue at all anymore.
No,
No, strictly
no.
strictly the torch.
Yes.
Okay.
The torch is what was closed down after that terror attack. So I found another one. Nick Hinton says the Matrix is glitching again, and I think he's going to become one of my favorite Twitter followers.
His Twitter feed is phenomenal.
It is. If you're,
Yeah, I have to go follow this guy. I mean, Jesus.
I mean, obviously, our 12 viewers that are here are into conspiracies because that's what we do: conspiracy, true crime, unexplained, unsolved shit. If you're into conspiracies and you're on Twitter, this is the guy to go and follow because he's got threads upon threads of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I
Anything
actually,
you can imagine.
I had to.
He's got a really good thread on Antarctica.
Yeah, I had
I know I said it before, but
I had to go and message one of the people who replied about that line of purple spectrum that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast and the color pink actually not existing without manipulation. They had a really good take on it and I had to message them. But check this out. So Bedloe's Island is designed as the site for Statue of Liberty. He posts this with the headline, "The Matrix is glitching again."
what is it called? What island?
Bedloe's Island.
Bedlos.
So
Okay.
evidently, for the next picture in the tweet, Liberty Island is a federally owned island in Upper New York Bay in the United States. Its most notable feature is the Statue of Liberty, a large statue that was dedicated in 1886, long known as Bedloe's Island. It was renamed by an act of the United States Congress in 1956. So, I mean, we've gone from Ellis Island to Liberty Island to Bedloe's Island. Do me a favor, Pants, and try to confirm what I have on the screen right now. It says the history of Ellis Island, and a photo of the Statue of Liberty on Ellis Island comes up.
Let's see here.
I don't know in context how this plays in, but somebody shared it with, why do so many of us remember Ellis Island being the island that the Statue of Liberty was on?
I don't see the picture when I search, but
Okay.
I mean, who knows, like how far they were down or anything like that. Yeah, when I just type in Ellis Island, I'm just seeing the building, the immigration building or whatever. looking at pictures of Liberty Island or whatever you want to call it, the way it's aligned with Ellis Island, that painting that you showed before, I think that painting can be explained by looking at where they are in reference to each other. If you were to looking at this picture I'm seeing now, if you were to go to the spot where the painting was referenced from and look, you'd see, I'm assuming, what looks like the Statue of Liberty on Ellis Island, because it's like right behind it.
I get what you're saying.
And obviously sticks up a lot higher, you know.
I don't know if I can find that closed in 700. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it does look like, because of the outlay of the islands, Ellis Island could be closer, and the statue is on Liberty Island in the background. So,
but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone off topic here, but it's going to play in next week's episode a little bit. It kind of tries to explain multiverse theory.
It definitely ties into the Mandela effect and the multiverse theory for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like we started talking about something completely different and threw our viewers for a loop, but...
Yeah, and now you guys have a little bit of a look forward to what we're going to talk about next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because now we've basically touched on the precursors, the starters.
Right. When I'm talking like conspiracy theories, the Mandela effect's the one for me. I mean, that's
why I didn't think I was going to have to pull your leg too much to get you into it.
No. So expect a heavy dose of me next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because oh man, I just want to go off right now. Like I'm just, I'm locked and loaded. Everything's up here. I don't even need to type it out. It's wild. But anyways, so any last thoughts, gentlemen, on the Mayan civilization, Mayan Empire, and CERN?
I think they knew something was up. I think they definitely have it down. Whether it comes down to a difference of 8 years or it comes down to a difference of 100 years, I think we'll see it within our lifetime. Their projections come true. If we already aren't now, if they weren't dead nuts accurate in their numbers. You know, like I said at the start of the podcast, we do not give them credit for being as intelligent as they were just based off of looking at technology alone. And I think they far surpassed us with whatever knowledge that they do have.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't think we're going to find out anything in our lifetime.
CERN's just going to keep resetting it.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep living this fucked up, call it a simulation, call it whatever you want. I just think we're going to keep living this fucked up reality we live in. Because it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. It's just getting worse. With every fucking passing day, there's something new. I don't think we're going to know anything in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I think we're going to keep wondering and keep doing this. And I hope we do, because, I mean, maybe 10 years from now, we're still doing this. And we can actually come out with some 100% undeniable factual information. And probably by that time, France and Switzerland will no longer exist because of a stupid little black hole CERN ran underneath that little 17-mile fucking conductor. Dude, yeah, no. I don't think we're going to learn anything unless something catastrophic happens. Like if we have the oh my god. I am brain farting so hard right now. We talked about it tonight. The
Hadron Collider?
No, not the Hadron Collider. The nuclear in Russia or whatever it is.
Oh, Chernobyl.
God, Chernobyl. We're gonna have a Chernobyl-like effect with CERN in our lifetime. That's the only thing we'll get, I think, is we'll have something catastrophic like that. Other than that, I don't think we'll get actual answers.
Honestly, that might be the thing that scares me the most, is that it's built underneath this like big city. Like, who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, not logical thinking people, not logical producer Bill, because if it was me, I would not have put that underneath a fucking city with people living in going
Unless
about their
there's
normal lives.
unless there's another reason why it's built there.
Dun dun dun.
All part of the New World grander plan.
Yep.
Maybe something with ley lines or something. Anyways, so no more thoughts, gentlemen. Should probably
Yeah, that's all I got.
shut her down.
Yeah, that's all
Get-
I got. We're gonna
Come back
do
next week.
we're gonna do the same thing we did last week with 9 viewers. We're gonna raid another channel after our outro plays. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for hanging out with us, listening
Appreciate it.
to our random rambles and completely off topic bullshittery. But
Yeah.
it's a good ride. So
And at the end of the day, this is just 3 friends getting together with all you random buys, just
Yes.
having a good time, talking about stuff, and we appreciate you showing up.
absolutely.
100%.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Okay.
Roses are red. Violets are blue.
Oh God!
You can't find Daddy.
Make sure
So
I
now I'll
raid those.
stab you.